Can the Titleist GT2 driver topple the Qi10 Max as the best driver of 2024? Let's go hit them both and find out. So at the start of 2024, I hit all the new drivers on the market, and I decided that my favourite was the TaylorMade Qi10 Max, and that's what I've had in my bag and in play ever since. And to be honest, I've really liked the performance. Now, since then, obviously, Titleist have come out with their brand new GT line, and in my testing, I was really impressed with this model. I wouldn't say it was excessively different from the TSR2, but that is the driver that I had in play last year, and there were definitely marginal gains and also a little bit better in terms of direction and the bias that I would like to see out on the golf course. So I thought it was time to put these two head to head and see if the GT2 can squeeze the Qi10 Max out of my bag. It's going to be a big challenge, but I think it might be up to the task. Let's hit them both and see how we get on. While you're here, I would really appreciate if you could hit that subscribe button. Over 75% of people that watch my channel aren't actually subscribed, and having a big subscriber number really helps in terms of the opportunities we get and the videos we can film for this channel. So if you could hit that subscribe button, I would really appreciate it. And while you're there, you might as well hit that like button, drop us a comment, let us know what head-to-head you'd like to see next. Right, back to the video. In terms of spec setup, these are slightly different. So my Qi10 Max is a 10.5 degree head. I've got that just set to normal. The GT2 is a 9 degree. So I've changed the hosel setting to A4, which should mean that it plays as a 10.5 but with a square face. They've also both got the same shafting. So we've got the KBS TD driver shafting here. They're both category 3, which means they're stiff. However, the one in my Titleist is 50 grams. The one in my Qi10 Max is 60 grams. So a little bit of difference, but almost identical of a setup as I could possibly get in these two. We're going to start with the GT, see what our track numbers are today. Now it is October in St Andrews, we're at the lovely Duke's golf course, which does mean it's a little bit cold. So we'll see how quick we manage to get those kind of clubhead speed numbers with all the jumpers I've got on and also my ball speed numbers. So I think the first place where the Titleist just wins for me is in terms of looks. It's so classic in terms of its design. They've changed the shaping a little bit this year. The club face sits a little bit smaller behind the ball, but I just love how this looks. Like the whole black shiny crown just looks really great behind the golf ball. It's really classic, and weirdly it sits really well with the shaft, doesn't it? Because it's just like matching colours. I hit that out of the toe a little bit, but it's a really strong, stable ball fly. It's just nicely drawn back into the fairway. We like it when our not best strikes end up in the fairway. So club end speed on that was 93.5 for 136.2 ball speed. Spin was up a little bit, like 2,500, but actually for me, I don't mind seeing the spin a little bit higher, especially on a missed strike. I think sometimes we can really scare low spin too much, and when you don't quite strike it well, the ball just doesn't stay in the air. That's carried 222 yards, which I'm really pleased with off not a perfect strike. Height up at 82 feet, smash 1.46. That was a really strong ball flight. The height on this is definitely a lot better with it set up at 10.5. I do think I probably should have gone for that rather than a 9, but I did have a 9 in my previous head, so we kind of wanted it as a comparison to the TSR2 at the time. That's carried almost identical distance. 222.4, but actually from 96.5 club head speed and 139.7 ball speed, it was a tad heely, which is why it spun up 3,000. I'm actually really pleased with the speed that's coming off that. I've been working quite a lot on accuracy in my swing recently, so I've not necessarily been swinging it as fast, but actually those numbers are really good, and probably the advantage we have here is this club head is slightly smaller than the Max. The Qi10 Max obviously is designed to be their most forgiving head, as is the TSR2, but that is definitely a lot bigger and more elongated. Oh, I definitely added a bit of loft to that. There's definitely a bit of this in that. Actually, it's still a pretty good ball flight, to be honest. 139 ball speed on that, even though I hit it high right, off 93.7 club head speed, 227 carry. 111 feet in terms of height, I was definitely like, whew. I say another area I definitely noticed the difference between these two is in terms of feel. Obviously TaylorMade have got their carbon face, which I think feels really nice and really fast out of the centre, but sometimes I think it's hard to differentiate where you've hit it off the club face. I'm not sure why that is. Maybe it's because it's thinner, maybe it's because it's lighter, but it's definitely not as easy to pick up like toe or heel strikes. Now for some people they might think that's great because it feels the same across the face and it's always going to feel nice. Personally, I do like a little bit of feedback because it just lets you know what you need to work on if you know you're always hitting it out of one place. That definitely was not my best strike, 134 ball speed, but the spin's dropped a bit and I've still got a 221 carry, so the numbers have been pretty consistent there. I'm going to hit one more so we have 5 and then we'll swap into the TaylorMade. I think sometimes with tyres people get the misconception that they're only for good golfers. I think some of that is how they've targeted and where they advertise, but actually this driver is really offering a lot of forgiveness, so it can be used by a lot wider profile than just your good club golfers, which I think sometimes people see these clubs for. And I think that's been seen in the numbers there, because I've had a real variety of strikes. They definitely not come out all out the middle, definitely not presented the same loft on all of them. But actually, like, the depth of the dispersion is really consistent. The front to back's not long at all. I think like my shortest shot was 221 yards and my longest was that one, which I just flushed, to be fair, and it's gone 228. That was 1.5 smash factor, which is really efficient in terms of the club face. I do think you see that a lot with Titleist. Like, the club head speed isn't necessarily always that high, but actually the ball speed is really efficient, so they just must be really effectively using the materials in the club head to give you really good ball speeds. Let's swap in TaylorMade now, see what the differences are. It's definitely performed stronger than I thought. It's definitely better in this 10.5 setting for me than it was in the 9 when I initially did the club testing for this. Now, the Qi10 Max definitely differs in terms of visuals to the GT2. It's definitely a lot more out there in terms of its design. It's definitely more loud in terms of its technologies, and in terms of visuals, like over the ball, it's bigger, it's more elongated, and it wouldn't necessarily be the thing I picked up in terms of size and shaping, but I actually do really love like the gloss crown we've got this year. So in terms of like that visual, really clean, but it is definitely bigger, which wouldn't always be my choice, but for me, I just like to pick the club that performs the best. I don't pick based on visuals, so even if I love the look of something, if something else performs better, I have to use that. So let's see if it does perform better. Such a solid ball flight. Slightly slower club head speed there, so kind of what I was saying before with the fact that this is a bigger club head, so you might not necessarily move it as fast. Also, obviously I've got 10 grams of extra weight in this shaft, so I also might not move it as fast. So that was 91.8 club head speed, not miles away. Ball speed 137. My spin was really high there though, 3,500, so I've only got 212 carry out of this. I mean, they've been so consistent in terms of like the flight and launch window. But again, 91 club head speed, 132.4 ball speed, 3.5 spin is a lot. 205 carry. So generally when I have this in the bag, because I think it launches a little bit higher than the equivalent, say 10.5 in the GT2, I do loft this down a little bit. So for me, lofting it down opens the face slightly, brings out the left side miss, but also brings down my spin a little bit. If you use the hosel to turn the loft down, you're going to get less spin. So if you're ever in a situation where you've got too much spin and you want to bring that down, that's a good method for you to do that. Now, the thing I'd say about this driver is it's definitely more left biased than other models. So across the Qi10 range, you've got different options in terms of kind of neutrality of your ball flight. This one definitely is a little bit draw biased. I can already see in terms of dispersion here that both those, one was the furthest left shot I've hit and the other one was like tied with the furthest left I've hit with the other driver. So already the dispersion is like 20 yards further left than what we saw with the GT. So if you're someone who wants to move your ball flight further left, this is definitely a good option for that. If you're someone who wants to hit a fade or wants something that's more neutral, I'd probably move towards the Titleist. Okay, I had to put a bit of extra oomph into that because I was like, my club head speed's so low. That's got a 94.8 club head speed, 139.6 ball speed, but it's brought the spin down because I've put the speed up a little bit, so 2,900, and then carry of 219.2. This thing is super stable on off-centre strikes. I mean, when I initially tested this in America with Tom Bicestead, who designed it, I was like, he was getting me to hit balls like out the toe, out the heel intentionally, they were just going straight, and I was like, what on earth is going on? And obviously that comes from that 10,000 MOI and that tech story that they put into this year. Having said that, I was really impressed by the dispersion with the Titleist because I definitely didn't hit the hole out the middle, and actually the dispersion was really tight. Maybe a little bit wider left to right, I lost a few, like high right, but Front to back, like nothing at all. I'm actually surprised by how much shorter this has come up. Let's just take a little look at the averages. So first off, let's start with club head speed. And this kind of feeds into that shaping I was talking about. With the Titleist, my average was 94.2. Pretty pleased with, because actually I haven't really been working on speed at the moment. And with the TaylorMade, it was 92.8. So definitely a little bit of difference. One, in terms of, I guess, the weight of the shaft and the size of the club head. And interestingly, my attack angle was like 1 degree more down with TaylorMade. Path was almost identical, but interestingly with the Titleist, my face would average just under 1 degree open, so 0.7 open, and with the TaylorMade it was minus 2.6 shut. So it just goes to show you a little bit about the design of the club head, kind of how it feels for me through closure, and where the weight is in the club head is going to affect like how you're releasing through the ball, and also obviously the end dispersion. Now, in terms of ball speed, there wasn't actually a massive difference. 138 with the Titleist, 137 with the TaylorMade. I was launching it actually a lot higher with the Titleist. Now the spin rate was definitely more optimal with the Titleist, 2,859 on average compared to 3,400 with the Qi10. It's definitely a big difference, and you can see why that's like affecting my distance. The height was also lower with the TaylorMade, so 77 feet compared to 91, and that meant that my total carry with the Titleist GT2 was 224 yards versus 213.5 with the TaylorMade. So actually like 10 yards of difference there. Now, I wouldn't use my TaylorMade in this setting, like this is not what I use out on the golf course. I've just set it up like this because I knew people would say it's not fair, they're at different lofts. So what I'm going to do is just going to hit like 2 or 3 with my TaylorMade in the loft setting that I would use out on the golf course, compare it to the Titleist how I have set it up, because that's how I would use the Titleist on the golf course, see if there's any differences in terms of number. So far, it's looking quite good for the Titleist. So I'm just going to move that 1 click lower on the loft sleeve, which isn't excessive. It should move it to like a 10. But the thing is, my height was already quite low with this. Sometimes it doesn't necessarily always change because you've changed how the face looks, so you might kind of deliver the club differently. Oh god, the spin went up. That wasn't meant to happen. Well, I'm telling you what, I've not missed many fairways so far with either of these drivers. So if you wanted something to go straight, either of them will do it. So I was definitely more I'd expect this to sit. 2,700 spin, carry 219. Still slightly shorter than the Titleist, to be honest. But this version was really tight, and it's brought the ball flight much more neutral. So not anywhere near as far left as we saw in the previous setting. I mean, the dispersion on that was ridiculously small, which is probably the thing I've seen consistently with this, like it has been very forgiving. Now, if I look at this data, I kind of have to go for the Titleist, because in the conditions we've got here, it's longer. To be honest, between the two, the dispersions are pretty similar, but it isn't as left biased, and for me recently, I've been really struggling with the left miss. So I think probably having something that's more neutral or to the right side of the course is going to suit me. Obviously, for a lot of golfers out there, they are slicers, so you can see how the Qi10 Max might set up better for helping people out with that. And I guess you might be willing to kind of give up 5-8 yards if you know that it's going to straighten your ball flight out and you're going to hit the fairway more. Now, when I went for my Titleist fitting, this KBS TD shaft was the one that was best for that club head. We literally tested every shaft in the history of the world, and that was the best performing. When I went for my TaylorMade fitting, this wasn't the best performing in this club head. Weirdly, it was in the LS model, but not in this, which is why you should always change your shafts when you're testing different drivers. So it could be that there could be a more optimal shaft option to get this head performing as optimally as the Titleist. But for what we've got here, the 2 heads and the 2 shafts that are on offer, the Titleist has to be the winner. What do you think? Which one would you pick? Let me know in the comments.